Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Man of Steel Superman Movie Masters figure from Mattel. That's right, preparing for the launch of the brand new Man of Steel film coming this summer, Mattel has released a new line of Movie Masters action figures that are already starting to hit stores. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Man of Steel himself, Superman. Superman comes packaged in this brand new Man of Steel Movie Masters blister card packaging. It's a very bright and colorful package and is definitely eye-catching. It's shaped kind of like the Superman logo as it appears on his chest on his costume. You can see the red cape is kind of billowing from the top of the card back around to the front where the Superman Movie Masters nameplate is. And then in the background behind the figure we have the Superman emblem as it appears on his chest. The backside of that packaging gives us some information on the story of the Man of Steel film, and along the right-hand side we get a look at the other Movie Masters figures that are available, including Jor-El and General Zod. So let's go ahead and get Superman out of the packaging and take a look at him. The figure stands in the 6-inch scale, which I was very happy about. That means he's going to be in scale with your DC Universe Classics figures, as well as your Movie Masters figures based on the Dark Knight movies, and unlike the Green Lantern Movie Masters figures, which were for whatever reason shrunk down to a more 5-inch scale. The figure actually has some really nice sculpted detail going on there. You can see that he's sporting the brand new costume that's going to be featured in this film. It definitely has a little bit of a New 52 vibe to it because as you can see he's missing the trunks on his costume. Also, like we always seem to see with these movie-fied costumes, there's a lot of textures going on, but it actually turned out really nice on the action figure, as all of the texture details across the Superman emblem, all the blue on his costume, and even the red of his boots looks really nice in sculpted action figure form. The colors on the costume are also a little more toned down. They're not as bright and vibrant as the comic book version, but I will say that they also don't look as dark as I've seen it appear in the trailers and the movie posters so far. I think it's actually a really nice looking blue and red combination on this action figure. There's also a nice amount of shading detail going on in there as well, so you can definitely see some darker blues and even some blacks around the biceps and some of the muscle areas on this costume, so that way it kind of brings out even more of those sculpted details. Taking a look at the cape on the back, you'll notice that it is just a solid red. There's no emblem on the back of this cape like there is in the comic book, but it does kind of fold really nicely there. It's made of the same soft plastic we've seen all of the other DC Universe Classic Superman figures made of, so if you've got any of those, you pretty much know what to expect here. But it does have a nice sculpt to it, so it looks like it's kind of flowing, and it billows out on the bottom, and it looks really nice. Now, the face sculpt is actually pretty good as well. It's a pretty decent likeness of the actor, but it's certainly a good likeness of Superman himself. So I'm pretty happy with the way the whole thing turned out as far as the sculpt goes. I think he's a really nice-looking action figure. So let's go ahead and talk about his articulation now. For the most part, you're pretty much going to know exactly what to expect if you're already a collector of Mattel's 6-inch DC figures. The head is able to turn both left and right only. There's unfortunately no joint to allow his head to move up and down. He's got ball-jointed shoulders there, a swivel at the bicep, single joints at the elbow, swivels at the wrist. There's no articulation in the torso, but he's able to swivel at his waist. He's got the hinge joints at the legs so they can move outwards, forwards, and backwards. Swivels at the thigh muscle, a single joint at the knee, and then the regular joint at the ankle with no boot cut articulation. So for the most part, it's a pretty good amount of articulation. It kind of stinks that we don't have anything in the boot cut because you can't twist his foot. I understand why they didn't put the torso articulation there because I assume they didn't want to break up the sculpt of the Superman emblem, which is a little bigger on here. But like the most disappointing, I think, is the fact that you can't move his head up and down because that's going to limit the ability to get him in any flying poses. He's always going to be looking straight down at the ground if you've got him posed to fly. But otherwise, you should still be able to get some pretty cool poses out of the figure. And in addition, he also includes a display base. It's shaped like the Superman emblem, and then it's got one foot peg on there, so you can pop that on the bottom of the figure, and that will help you display him on your shelf. I'm always a fan of action figures coming with display stands, so this is a really good inclusion for me. Alright guys, it's comparison time! Just for fun, here's a look at this new Man of Steel Movie Master Superman standing alongside the DC Universe Classic Superman from the comic books. This will give you a good idea of the scale and the size. As you can see, the Movie Masters version is also a little leaner than the more bulkier comic book version, and you can definitely see the differences in the costume as well. And here he is alongside the New 52 version of the character from the comic books. Again, you can kind of see that the costume in the movie does seem to have a bit of a vibe from this New 52 costume in the comics. So one thing I really like about this is that he's back in that 6-inch scale, which I said at the beginning. I like that because now we can pose him alongside our Dark Knight Batman figure from Mattel's Movie Masters line, and looking at these two side by side, you can see that Superman does stand a little bit taller than Batman, but I'm okay with that. I do feel like both of these costumes work well together, so they will display pretty nicely on your shelf. So there you go, guys. There's a look at the brand new Movie Masters 6-inch Superman from the Man of Steel line. These figures are already starting to hit store shelves right now, so happy hunting, and until next time.